One way to improve the look of your slides in Microsoft PowerPoint is to use shapes. There are quite many shapes ready to use, and they can easily be connected to each other in order to both simplify the editing and provide better visuals. In this video we will discuss what shapes are, how to add and modify them, and how to connect them. In order to add a shape to your slide, go to Insert, Shapes. You will see all available shapes grouped into some categories. Just click the shape you want. In this example we will add a rectangle, and simply click on the slide where you want the top left-hand corner of your shape to be. You can then adjust the shape to your liking, draw any of the highlighted points to change its size. If you just click on the slide to add a shape, PowerPoint will add shapes in their regular forms, so rectangles will be added as squares and ovals as circles. If you want to resize the shape while adding it, then instead of just left-clicking where you want the top left-hand corner of your shape, left-click and drag your mouse cursor. The shape will follow your mouse. If you want to move the shape, simply move your mouse cursor somewhere over the shape until it changes into 4 arrows. Then click your left mouse button and drag the shape to the desired position. You can also move the shape with your keyboard, which can be useful if you want to make more minute movements. Simply mark the shape you want to move by clicking on it, and then use the arrow buttons on your keyboard to move it around. This is useful, for instance, if you want to move a shape only horizontally or only vertically. When using the mouse, there is risk that you can move it in both perspectives, but using keyboard you can ensure that the movement is done exactly as you intend. Please note that when moving shapes with keyboard, the movements are very small, so it takes time to move shapes from one end of the slide to another. When you add a shape or when you click on an existing shape, there is a new menu activated on the ribbon on top of the screen. It is called Shape Format. It contains various commands that can be used to modify the shape. Let's start with the fill of the shape. To change the fill of your shape, click on it to mark it, and then select Shape Fill from the Shape Format menu. On top of the drop-down list that shows, you can choose among colors for the current theme of your presentation. Below that, you can find standard colors, and further down, if you have worked recently with some colors, you will find them too. As you move your mouse cursor over the colors, you will see your shape change colors accordingly. This allows you to quickly see whether a particular choice would fit without actually changing the color of the shape. If the colors listed in these 3 sections are not enough, you can choose More Fill Colors option from the menu. This will open a new dialog with 2 tabs. On the Standard tab, you will be able to pick the fill color from a hexagonal palette of colors. You will also be able to choose the transparency. If these choices are not enough, you can always go to the Custom tab. There you can pick from a more continuous palette of colors, define your color in the RGB scale, or define it as a hex number. You can of course define transparency here too. If you do not want your shape to have any fill, just pick No Fill from the list. Please remember that if your shape doesn't have any outline, it will become invisible. Instead of picking a color, you can also refer to one already used on your slide. Pick Eyedropper and just click on the place on your slide which has the color you want to use, and PowerPoint will copy it. Please note that the functionality of Eyedropper is limited to your current slide, so you cannot refer to a color used on another slide or in another application with this functionality. Instead of having solid color fills, you can also choose to have gradients. If you pick this option, you will be presented with a list of choices which graphically represent what you get with each choice. If you want to have a pattern fill, you have to pick Texture, which is of course a bit counterintuitive, and then More Textures. This will open the Format Shape pane on the right-hand side of your screen, where you can click on Pattern Fill and choose the option you want, including the foreground and background color. You can also have a picture as the fill of your shape. In such case, pick Picture from the list of options in the Fill menu. You will then have to decide where you want to take the picture from: a file on your computer, stock images, online pictures, or icons. Depending on your choice, you will be presented with a different dialog for selecting the picture you want to use. A specific variant of using pictures as the fill is the option of texture. If you pick a texture from the list of predefined textures, your shape will look the same as if you added a picture. However, textures are more than just pictures, and they allow more scaling than normal pictures, so if you like any of them, it could be a better idea to use one of the predefined structures rather than finding an online picture with a similar look. You can see the difference if you add two shapes to your slide, and for one of them pick the option of using a file, and for the other one to use a texture. If you then look at the Format Picture pane that opens to the right, you will see different options to choose from. Similar options are available for the outline of your shape. However, below the eyedropper option, you will not see Picture, Gradient and Texture, but instead you will find Weight, Sketched and Dashes. The Weight option allows you to define how thick the outline of your shape is supposed to be. Thickness is defined in points. In the menu that shows, you can pick thicknesses from 1/4 of a point to 6 points, but if you click on More Lines, you will be presented with the Format Shape pane on the right-hand side of the screen again, and there in the Width field you can manually specify the thickness of the outline. If you go to the Sketched menu, you can change the look and feel of the outline so that it looks as if it was manually drawn. The line will be a bit uneven, and PowerPoint will give you a few options for this. Clicking More Lines will open the same Format Shape pane, but unfortunately the Sketched Style menu will have the same options you have already seen with the first choice. The Dashes option allows you to pick the dash type for your line. Similarly to the Sketched option, selecting More Lines will bring you to the Format Shape pane, where the dash type menu will have the same options you have already seen. The Format Shape pane will, however, have some additional options for formatting your outlines or lines in general. You can specify the compound type and also cap and join type. Interestingly enough, the cap type option will only work for not closed shapes, for instance lines, but will not work for closed shapes like rectangles or ovals, even if the option is still active. The join type choice will have effect on the sharp corners of your shape, but both the cap type and the join type options give very subtle effects which are visible first when you zoom into your slide, or if you have shapes big enough and lines thick enough to see the difference. The last option in the outline menu is called Arrows, and if your shape is a closed one, then this option will be grayed out and inactive. However, if your shape is an open one, for instance a line, then this option will allow you to define how your line should look like if it is to be an arrow. Similarly to other menus, you will have a number of options presented to you graphically, but if you pick More Arrows, then the Format Shape pane will open, and you will be able to define your arrows in more detail, picking both the begin and end arrows shape and size. Please note that for both the closed and open shapes there is a Shape Styles menu visible to the left of the menus we have been looking at, which graphically presents some predefined options following the current theme for the presentation. Some shapes have an additional editing option represented by yellow dots. By dragging these dots, you can adjust the shape even more. This is useful, for instance, if you want to adjust the shape of arrowheads, thickness of stars, or filling of the partial circle shape. If you add a line arrow, or a connector, and you already have some existing shapes on your slide, you will notice that PowerPoint highlights some points on these already existing shapes. These points are predefined anchoring points. If you click on one of these points, you will see that the beginning of your line gets attached to that point. If you then click your mouse on an anchoring point on another shape, you will see that the end of the line gets attached there. The line you have just added is now connecting both shapes. If you now move any of the connected shapes, your line moves together with it, so you don't have to readjust it separately. This is especially useful when you work with many shapes that are connected. Moving a shape causes all connected lines to automatically readjust. There are quite many predefined shapes to work with. They can be added both from the Insert menu and from the Shape Format menu if it is active. And it is active if you have already a shape on your slide and it is selected. There are many more possibilities to format shapes and even create your own. Be sure to check our future videos to learn how to do it.